Alright, Diablo players, so I've played so much of Season 10, and I've got a lot of questions that I want to go ahead and answer. We're going to talk about the brand new Chaos Uniques, the brand new boss that you guys will see gameplay of very, very soon, and kind of answer the main question, is it worth actually playing with the brand new, not Chaos powers, but Chaos perks? These are actually much cooler than powers, as I would say you get a lot of power for these, and I'll be honest, the interface is kind of copy and pasted, but the results of some of these brand new powers or perks are absolutely amazing. This is probably one of the best seasons that we'll ever get of Diablo if they can pull it off. It's specifically getting a bunch of these items in categories that you normally would not get. That's essentially what a Chaos Unique is. Basically think of like Banished Sword's Talisman, which is an amulet, now can roll as a pair of gloves, which opens up the doors for a lot of different builds. There is, again, you guys are seeing a brand new super OP build called the Tornado Necromancer. By the way, the build guide for that one will be coming up very soon. These builds are absolutely brand new because what this one with the Tornado Necromancer, it converts a core skill into a ultimate and an ultimate into a core skill. So there's a lot of really, and I mean amazing powers that completely open up the doors to brand new ways to play, whether it is mana stacking or just getting stacks of plus to core skills for multipliers on things like Escalations. There's just so many cool builds that open up, and I want to start off the video by kind of not wasting your time and kind of answering the question. So first off, this could be the best season ever, but there is one major flaw, and I'm going to give Blizzard some feedback over here as a partner, and I'm hoping that they address this because I think that this will be a pretty big turning point in creativity for players, but also those players that spend thousands of hours in the game have the ability to kind of experiment and do crazy things. So I want to start off by saying, as far as the new Chaos Uniques, the uniques themselves aren't necessarily new in terms of what Blizzard had to do for design, but allowing you to equip things in improper spots really opens up the doors to, again, crazy builds. So I've already shown you guys that build over there, which is the Tornado Necromancer. I want to show you guys the Auto Shout Barbarian now, and you can make these builds kind of play to your playstyle, allowing you to kind of play like lazily, so to speak, with the Barbarian. You don't have to do triple shouts where you have to push them all the time, or even activate the Frenzy. You can just pretty much have Big Hammer hit the button. There are going to be downsides though if you do have it on autocast, but the downsides aren't that like, oh, it's just like a weaker version. Heck, the shouts are actually improved when they are on autocast, but the downside is that you reduce resource. So then that way you have kind of like a give and a take. So that's the whole, I guess, identity of these Chaos powers. With the Necromancer, how it would work is it costs a lot of resource to spam your ultimate, but I'll be making build guides, and so I'll show you guys how to get around them. So again, the creativity around these is a 10 out of 10. This is the peak, and I'm talking the best Diablo like creative season that we've ever had. Like, again, the doors open up for so many cool ideas, and I was really disappointed that we only had 1 week to test out these brand new things for Season 10. However, I got to give a score in this department. Now, in the test server that I had access to, I was able to, of course, I could just get whatever item I want, like instantly, right? Now, I want to say farming these items is where I want to heavily criticize the new season. So I would say farming is going to feel like a 1 out of 10. And I just want to say that for the casual player base of like gamer dad, I just get home from work, I got 2 hours to play video games before my wife yells at me. This is the area where they're just going to be like, dude, I don't even want to play. These are too rare. I always hear people talk about the Mythic Uniques being so rare that, like, I can never get them. And if you feel like the Mythic Uniques are rare, boy, I gotta tell you, these Chaos Uniques aren't rare as far as the drop. But to get the correct one in the correct slot with the correct GA, let's go over some numbers here. And on top of that, there's going to be a lot of Chaos Uniques that are pretty bad. And I also kind of want to open up this kind of for a slight discussion for the Diablo team in general. Out of all the uniques that you could have chosen to be a Chaos Unique, some of these are so bad, I wonder, do you guys play this game at a high level? And I know that there's players out there that work on the team that know what they're doing. All right, I want to give a shout out to Rich because he knows what he's doing. But there are other people on the team that may not understand this game at the level I wish they did. Now, again, there are so many cool Chaos Uniques, but you chose to make Mother's Embrace, which is the ring that every single time you get that unique ring, you're like, oh my gosh, I hate it. It's like the melted heart of Selig of uniques. You hate seeing it. So because they had to make these roll as a Chaos unique, I get that every single one can't be good, but that also stays true to not every single one is going to be good for your build. And I understand that. But when you have certain ones that are like these brand new Chaos uniques that roll as Mother's Embrace, it just makes me feel like there's a disconnect from the players that are fans of the game that really play and understand the game versus the design team of throwing items like Mother's Embrace as a Chaos unique. Now, if they were to rework Melted Heart of Selig or Mother's Embrace, it would make me feel more confident that the team understands what the players want and kind of itemization. But again, I understand that not every item can be good, but again, there's so many of these Chaos uniques, we kind of need to look at the fluff in the game. So to kind of give you guys a breakdown of why I'm giving the game like the score of these Chaos uniques a 10 out of 10, but the farming I'm putting a 1 out of 10 as in it's terrible. So the breakdown comes down to this. You have 1 out of 22 chance, roughly, it depends on the class you play, because there's the generic uniques and then there's the class uniques that these brand new things can roll on, right? And then you have a 1 out of 5 chance to get the correct slot. So that can be helmet, chest, gloves, pants, and boots. That's where the brand new Chaos uniques can roll. They can't roll in the weapons department. And then you also have to factor in that it is the correct greater affix. Just like any other unique in the game, if it's the incorrect greater affix or maybe a roll isn't high on maybe 2 of them, like some builds like you need double GAs to hit certain breakpoints, then it's going to be even worse because you have a 1 out of 22 chance of it being the correct unique just in general, then it has to be the correct slot, and then you need the correct greater affix, and then if you're like, I want like a double GA, good luck, man, especially if you can't generate the item like we were able to in the PTR. Again, just to give a rough like breakdown, you have to roll it in the correct category for your build because you can't just play like, 5 Banished Lord's Talismans. It has to be like on a very specific spot. And then you have to also factor in how many of these exist. This is, for example, like the Barbarians, right? And then, again, you have to get the correct GA, the correct item slot, because you have to make sure that every item is in the correct slot for these things to work. It's a lot of work in general. Now, I want to talk about the Infernal runs, which you guys have been seeing gameplay of. In fact, most of the gameplay I'm going to be showing you guys is this, because this is the new content. I feel like it's too much recycled content, to be honest. Like, I know that, like, we had the Nightmare Dungeon change, and that was, like, a great, like, addition to the game. It does make the game feel better, in general, to have, like, oh, maybe there's could be an escalation sigil that drops, and now I can fight a boss and get some cool stuff at the very end. And then at the very end, you get about 1 to 2 uniques at the very end. The Infernal Hordes mode does give you like those Chaos uniques, but remember, it could be a bunch of the ones that you don't want. This is where, again, this kind of becomes a problem. Now, some of the mods that you'll see in here are brand new. There's these new Chaos Rifts that can also open up when you're doing other forms of content. But overall, I want to say the content feels too much recycled, and I want to say this should have been just like a brand new update that's either mid-season or in the new season. We're also going to be updating these new mods for, let's say, Nightmare Dungeons or, of course, the Infernal Hordes. It felt like a very small update, like maybe like a small, like, oh, a new event happening for a week or something like that. It didn't feel like a brand new season mechanic. And when I want to compare like Diablo to Path of Exile or Last Epoch or any other action RPG, I want to say that we keep on getting too much recycled content. Now, to be fair, the uniques that are the Chaos uniques is technically recycled, but that was like good. That was like so many doors to open up, right? That was awesome. 10 out of 10 on that. But as far as like the new Infernal Hordes, I've always kind of liked this as a form of gameplay, but I feel like you're still end up going to the pit for like consistent upgrades, whereas here is like just kind of like a slot machine if you're going to get the upgrade. Again, that's why I'm giving the loot in the game a 1 out of 10. It is a big concern of mine, and I will talk about some solutions also to fix that. But specifically, it comes down to the GAs just need to roll all 4 GAs because, again, it's already too rare as is, and to make it that much more frustrating for your average, again, gamer dad, I only got 2 hours to play before my wife yells at me and tells me to get off. Those kind of players, I want to say that that is kind of an area where this game could suffer. Again, in the casual base, and I'm someone that can play 30 hours a day, no problem, but I really look at trying to balance the game for the average gamer, not, again, content creator that can play 30 hours a day. So remember, you want the right GA, the right slot, and the chances are basically very, 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 very low. As far as the powers go, like if I was to give this game a score on the powers, I think the unique ones are really cool, and I'm actually hoping that some of these stay. Like the Mana Shield is so game-changing for the Sorc. You have 99% reduced maximum life, but any damage that you take goes to your mana, and then you have a massive mana pool. Like, this is amazing, cool. I really like that you have these crazy builds to kind of make. I love it. Now, some of these feel really bad. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a huge fan of the Rogue class, but the Rogue classes are like 3 out of 10. There's like, okay, there's a 40x multiplier, and that's basically it. The other downside isn't even worth the upside. The downside on the Rogue special magic superpower, because every class has different chaos powers, which is awesome. I love that. That's great. But there's like a huge imbalance. And by the way, please, Blizzard, don't look at this as in, wait, the Sorc one is really good, but the Rogue sucks, nerf Sorc. No, I'm saying just get the Sorc one, leave it. Heck, if you want to buff it, that's even better. I always think buffing is better. This is a PvE game. There's no PvP here. So just buff the ones that are like super far behind. Do not nerf the other ones in any way, because I think that people want that power fantasy. Let them have fun. It's a PvE game, right? Like, it's not like the monster's going to go complain and say, I'm quitting the game. These players are too strong in the game now. Just let these powers feel good, because a lot of people kind of feel fatigued with these powers. But if you let people have these crazy ideas for builds, it allows the non-meta build to kind of shine through and allow them to be played if, you know, you give them enough power in general. Like the Rogue classes is like, you can have like your barrage or your twisting blades hit twice, do double damage, which we already have, but then you lose all resource generation. Like the drop off is too big because you can already temper on barrage twice, rapid fire twice. Like, it doesn't matter. But for the most part, like, there are really cool ones in a lot of classes. Again, Necromancer, I showed you guys that tornado build in the very beginning. Core skills become ultimate. Ultimate becomes core skills. That amazing. Like 10 out of 10. Like that, there's just so many cool ideas with the unique items, as well as, again, the powers. So the powers, it depends on the class you play, but I'd say overall I would give it an 8 out of 10, including with the Rogue. But some of these, like the Sorc one is like 11 out of 10. They really did a good job on that one. Heck, the Necromancer one is another like 11 out of 10. They went above and beyond with, again, the creativity is definitely there, and I love that. One of the other big issues that I wanted to highlight is movement speed in the game. There's always like an item that can give you like a 40x at minimum to 100x or even more DPS. And the thing is that if you run any of the brand new builds, like if you look at any content creators' brand new builds, a lot of them, they're not even playing regular boots, right? They're playing like Crown of Lucian, which can give you like 90x damage because it rolls 18 or 15, and then it gets multiplied times 5 or whatever. But basically, all of these items can roll as, let's say, boots. And there's no way that you tell me I'm going to lose like 120x damage just for some movement speed, but I also don't really want to just move slow in general. So I think that we could look at this. Maybe you can make a chaos power that's available for everyone, just to give us 30% movement speed. That's all I'm asking for. Like, as much as I love to have and move at 200% movement speed, or if you just give us Diablo 2, you know, Enigma on all the characters, like the Sorc. There's one reason why I'm going to say Sorc is like so strong, is because you can get away without the movement speed that other characters really, really want to have, because you can just teleport, right? But I don't want to be moving at a snail, right? I want that damage to feel that new season power, but I also do not want to be a snail. So that's like a good little example. Now I want to talk about some of like the good and like the bad and kind of sort them. So I think the new Chaos Uniques are awesome, and also Andariel is doable. Like, you can one-shot Andariel, you can one-shot all of the bosses that were super annoying. Heck, I even dropped like a quick little like short video showing like even the new Lilith that you can just like straight up walk up and one-shot. Like, there's no real phases. Like, you basically have to eliminate her 2 times, but like, she doesn't have to do the mechanic where, you know how like the platform breaks and you got to move over here and you got to wait forever. There's no more of that. Like, you can just one-shot any of the bosses basically, if you have the DPS, which is important that you play a good meta build because of this. But I think it's like with all the phase bosses, there's just none of them anymore. Again, Andariel, the dog, you just one-shot them all. And I think the new perks are really good. Again, I wanted to highlight, please, Blizzard, look at Rogue. There's a lot of nice quality of life that has been added also in the game. Just overall, like the Nightmare Grim Favors are now marked when you look at your the Nightmare Dungeon. Like, you can actually see if it is one of the Grim Favor ones, so it makes things a little bit easier for you to kind of visually see. Also, as you start completing the Escalation Sigil, there's a little thing that pops up and it tells you, like, okay, you're working towards it. It's cool. Overall, there's a lot more quality of life that they've been adding to the game, and that's awesome. But I want to talk about also, like, the bad. So, again, I wish we had more time to test this, because I think because this season is so unique in the idea that you can make all these crazy builds, I think this season, I really think that it would have been better for us to get 2 to 3 weeks of this for the testing the PTR. It is almost impossible for one content creator to play all the classes. I streamed a bunch, you guys know that. I love this season, that's why. Also, there's another reason. I really would say that, like, there could have been a lot more things to play around with and find out. Otherwise, what's going to happen is when this particular season comes out, there's probably going to be some new bugs. There already is one. There is the Druid that can hit for 100 or hit for infinite damage, negative damage numbers. There's a lot of builds that are going to probably come out that are broken in this one. And the reason why is, again, this season is so unique with the crazy amount of things that you can do. But another thing that I want to say that is in the bad area of the game is that the final chest, when you're doing the new mode here, at the very end, you get to open up this big chest, right? Now, the chest has doubled in cost, and you have to pay 666 Aether at the very end. I'm going to actually fast forward so you guys can see what I'm talking about at the very end. So after you do the 10th wave on the new mode, I guess we can talk about the new mode here because I haven't really been talking about it. So basically, it's the same thing as Infernal Hordes, but at the very end, there's a brand new boss, and he'll be like one-shotted, but at the very end, you see how this costs 666 Aether. You can see over here in this run, I had, I'm going to be opening it, but it basically came down to us having like 800 or, well, let's see what the exact number was. A good build should be able to hit at least 1,000 pretty consistently. There are some bad classes where you won't be able to hit. So we hit like 900 and something on like this run. But at the very end, there's a boss, and then you can defeat him, and this is the brand new boss. Honestly, the new boss is pretty cool, but if you're playing any meta build, yeah, expect to just like one-tap him just like you would in a lot of different builds in the game. But if you don't play a meta build, this is where you get heavy punished because the brand new Chaos Uniques, you get about 1 to 2 at the very end of a run. Each run will roughly take you about 12 minutes if you are fast. And I say if you are fast because remember, the timer is always going to be a 1 minute. At the end of the day, for me, I'm just taking all of the Chaos things because if you get the Goblin thing to spawn in and spawn hundreds of Goblins, that's like, you're good, you get it. But I want to say that this heavily encourages you to only play the meta stuff. And I'm going to give you some example of some meta builds that are kind of bad here. Like, for example, the Hoda Barbarian really struggled. In general, the Barbarian struggles in the brand new mode, and even Rogue will struggle in the new mode, especially if you're trying to play, like, let's say, Barrage, because Rogue kind of sucks in this season, to be completely honest with you guys. But the Hoda Barb struggled to get the amount of Aether that was required to open up the new boss. So if they want, like, people to play all these crazy builds, I think that's a good thing, but I think that you can look at reducing the cost at the very end. They doubled the cost of this, and I think that they could maybe look at reducing the cost of this, considering you already have to spend 600 and on a basically not top tier build. Basically, if you're not playing Sorc or the brand new super OP Tornado Necromancer that like covers the entire screen with like giant like black holes, you're going to be significantly further behind. So this season is definitely going to be about meta, because if you want to farm the Chaos Uniques, you pretty much go to this mode. Now you can get the Chaos Uniques, by the way. As far as I'm aware, you can get them anywhere, but the more consistent ways that I was getting them was specifically through this mode. You get about 1 to 3. On average, think about like 2 is what you're getting. And if you want to do like the Tormented bosses, you can also get the Uniques that way, but again, they're not really that fun to grind because there's just so much variance. Now, I want to say in general, this doesn't have to do necessarily with this season, like as far as like this season changed things, but it's mostly that like I feel like glyph leveling is no fun, right? When you get your glyphs to like 50, 60, it's like it kind of feels like you are getting fatigued of doing the same thing over and over again. However, I want to say that getting your glyphs to 100 is kind of a pain point because you need to go to the Infernal Hordes to also get the items that you need, and maybe just add either a reduction on what's required for people to level up their glyphs. That way all builds can get to maxed out glyphs. In my personal opinion, I think that level of like 50 glyphs should be done and just double the stats of the glyphs. That way, you still get your glyphs to max in terms of the power, okay? So I'm not saying cut the power in the glyphs in half, but cut the leveling time in half. That way, every single build can max out their glyphs. I have no idea why Blizzard has this mindset that like, well, like maybe like more than half the builds cannot even get their glyphs to max level. It just doesn't make sense. Let the people at least level up. What if they want to play something trash? Let them play something trash, but let them at least level up their glyphs. So the casual players that isn't looking at like, you know, guides for making out max tier builds, let them be able to kind of have some fun too in their, you know, F tier build, right? I just want them to be able to level up their glyphs. At the end of the day, keeping retention rate is good in a video game, and if you let people just play what they want to and at least level them up, they're going to feel a lot better than like, oh, my build sucks. Well, I guess I'm not going to play anymore. People have that mindset with video games. People don't really want to have that dedication like people did back in the day. I would say with games, people want things very fast, and if they don't get it fast, they're just going to move on to another game. So pit as the only source of XP equal no fun. Pit as the only source of good XP is no fun too. So the fact that the pit is still like the main area where you do everything. I don't know why it's like this. It's like if you want XP or glyph XP, there's only one real way to do it, and I am fatigued of the pit. And so, like, I'm glad that this is the new season, but, like, you still gotta go do the pit, still gotta go do pit for hours and hours and hours. It's rough. But I also want to say balance still feels off. Okay, and by the way, Blizzard, I am not saying nerf Hydra, okay? The barrage buff on Barrage, okay, went from 22% damage to 25. Does that get me excited as a rogue player? Well, any buff, I'm going to try it, and I'll tell you for sure, it was terrible. It did not feel like it was buffed at all. Even with a 360x multiplier with a brand new Orphan Maker unique, it felt very, very underwhelming compared to, like, Hydra gets, like, 100x damage per. It's very, very different in terms of, like, how powerful my character felt. So I would say balance is still in a bad spot. Again, I'm not saying nerf Hydra. I'm telling you guys, just buff the skills that see 0% play towards the end of the game. Also, other things that are bugged. Vox is, like, bugged. There's actually a shield bug on Spiritborn with one of the brand new mechanics with, like, the protector. That was a bug. There's also Druid was bugged. There's also, I think, a bug with Lockeran's Talisman and Banished Talisman guaranteeing the crit. Something's not working properly. And then another bug that has been in the game for a long time is when you spend your resources for Banished Swords or for the Overpower, or a lot of mechanics where it's like your skill cast 2 times, it does not activate the bonus set of damages. Same thing with Quill Volley on return. This has been in the game since, as far as I'm aware, of, like, the start, and I really want to say that they should look at these. So Vox Omnium is bugged. Again, shields are bugged. So if they can take a look at that, that'd be awesome. Remember, this is PTR. This is where we tell Blizzard, what to fix. I'll be telling Blizzard, like, directly which ones. Also, the Druid Raven, it's the aspect of Wild Rage. If you guys haven't seen it, you can do infinite damage. Check it out. Just type in, just go look for it on the channel. It will be there. It's the most overpowered build in the entire game right now, and it's probably going to get nerfed. Even though if it gets nerfed, it still probably will be a top tier build though. But overall, I wanted to kind of wrap up my thoughts now that I've yapped for like 20 minutes here. But I want to say it's a rough farm for the exact item and the exact GA and the exact slot that you need, and I think that that's pretty rough. And I could see a lot of casuals quitting because the streamer who plays 30 hours a day is going to have a build guide that says, hey guys, you need to get, like, Banished Talisman as a chest piece, you need Crown of Lucian as gloves, and Fist of Fate as pants, and, like, you need all of these. It has to be kind of in the same area, because, like, you can swap Banished Lord's Talisman and Fist of Fate, like, you can swap those, which is okay, but there are certain items for certain builds, like, you cannot replace a very specific item depending on the build that you play. So you have to watch out for that too. So that's something to kind of take a note of when you guys are making some of these builds. But I want to say for casuals, overall, they'll probably feel like the season is a 4 out of 10 since you need the specific uniques. And I would say for theory crafters, it'll probably feel like an 8 out of 10 overall, because you could kind of just stack whatever gives you the most damage, and that's going to be fun for some of the, like, the non-meta stuff. And again, like, the doors open up for, like, really crazy builds like this Tornado Necromancer. And I would say the Chaos Uniques, again, 10 out of 10, the coolest thing since, like, the Kanai's Cube, really. I would love to see a Kanai's Cube. That was one of the most unique things in Diablo 3. Remember how you had that cube and you can put, like, you can put a legendary power of, let's say, an item in your armor slot, a weapon slot, and, like, a ring. That was the coolest thing ever. If we got that plus Chaos Uniques, oh man, my brain would go crazy. I would love to see that in addition to it, but I don't think asking for new things is realistic here. I'm going to say that the Chaos Uniques, they're the coolest thing in the game, and it makes me sad because I'm assuming that these all get deleted, which is kind of my next thing that I want to talk about, which is, like, I'm super excited that we get these brand new powers and stuff, with specifically the power that we get on the items, right? Like, I would feel really bad if, like, I farmed these specific items, spent, like, hundreds of hours getting, like, oh, I really need to get Banished Lord's Talisman in this chest piece. I got a perfect one. It's got plus ranks to core skills. I'm so excited. I can finally play an Esador's build, which is all about crackling energy, because, like, crackling energy's gotten buffed. I'm honestly saying, like, probably 20 plus times. It has always been so bottom tier, and it's just worthless. And it's finally actually viable now in Season 10, and some of these items are going to be super, super, super rare, and then you're telling me that, like, all my work of farming all 5 items, and if you look at the Diablo inventory right here, that's like half our gear. So you're telling me if I spend hundreds of hours on all this time, I just lose all my Chaos Uniques at the very end of the season? I'm going to be kind of disappointed because I worked for those. And so, like, in Diablo's Eternal realm, comparing to, like, Path of Exile standard, like, Path of Exile, you make a super cracked out item, you're keeping that thing forever. It's just going to be moving to standard, right? Whereas in Diablo, it's like, oh, you got this cool power, like, you remember the abattoirs, you're leveling up that glyph, and then it's like, oh, all your hard work, goodbye. That feels bad, and I want to say that's why casuals are going to really dislike this season, I want to say, unless they can say, hey guys, we're going to allow these Chaos Uniques to stay in the game forever. That's the ideal goal. Or if they say you can keep them, but they're on Eternal, that's still a good thing, because then you can still come up with crazy ideas. But then I understand that, like, you can't have Eternal, like, so cracked out because of the special power that you get. Then, like, the season becomes worthless because, like, people just want to play with their Eternal realm. I don't know. Overall, I think the best idea with this is just allow Chaos Uniques to persist in the game, to be honest. I think that it is such a great option. Anyways, the perks are pretty good. Again, 10 out of 10 design on, like, Mana Shield. But they need some of these big changes to kind of stay in the game, to have people have kind of like some cool flavor that they can mess with. As far as the end gameplay loop, I really felt like it was like 5 out of 10. Like if I was to give it a score, because like, again, I'm tired of the bit. The Infernal Hordes, the new little like things that you can get, it's okay, but it feels like a small little update. Could have been like a small like weekend new, like, you know, Lunar event, new Chaos Infernal Horde. It doesn't feel like a new, brand new season, right? Because like at the end of the day, what am I going to do? I'm going to go to the boss and one-shot the thing 1,000 times again to hope I get the Chaos Unique. I want to say they could look at the endgame gameplay loop a lot more, and I think that having more variety is kind of key here in Diablo for its future. But overall, the game state could be more rewarding for those big fans, specifically in this season, because, again, the Chaos Uniques are so rare. So if you'd like that kind of big chase of getting some really crazy item that's super, super rare, this is kind of be kind of a season for those players. But I want to say that they should probably tone it down in terms of how rare these Chaos Uniques are going to be with, again, those greater affix. So here's my suggestions to make this more accessible for your average, again, gamer dad. I got 2 hours before my wife yells at me, you know, after I come home from work. So remember, these are super rare to get the right one, and I think that making these more common overall, like as in make the drop rates a lot higher just to get more of these. And even if you increase the drop rate, that might not be all done. Like you can't just be like, all right, double the drop rate, we're good, right? No. The reason why is I feel like they have to be either like drop more of them. Like if I'm in World Tier 4, again, I want to see all greater affix items. And I want to say, if I'm in World Tier 4, can I just have all 4 GA items? Like what would be the downside with this game? Because remember, even if it's all 4 GAs, that doesn't mean it's good. You still have life per 5 seconds, you still have resistances, you still have so many garbage stats in the game anyways, that like, especially on the Chaos Uniques, because this is where it's a big offender. Because remember, it's a 1 out of 22 to get the right item, and then it's a 1 in 5 to get it on the right roll, and then it's a 1 in 4 chance on getting the right GA. If you use a probability calculator, it goes into like the ease of like a, you know, basically non-existent sort of rarity. It becomes very, 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 very rare, especially since you only get 2 of them at the very end. And I think that a lot of players will find that to be pretty rough. So overall, I would say this season can easily be a 9 out of 10 if you make it so these Chaos Uniques drop with, depending on the world tier. If I'm on World Tier 4, just drop 4 GA. If I'm on World Tier 1, 1 GA. World Tier 2, 2 GA. I think that that would really let players not have to go to Diablo.trade and have to sit there in frustration. Path of Exile just added literally trade in their game innately. Like it's so big brain, and it's like, why don't we have this in Diablo, right? We had it in the auction house in D3. I'm just begging them to make it so we don't have to use the trade website. And I don't think it's realistic for me to say, hey Blizzard, I really want trade in the game, throw it in right now at the last minute as a new season update. I would love for that to happen, but I don't think it's realistic. Realistically, just make all the Chaos Uniques 4 GA. I think people will be like much more excited because they're already incredibly rare. To get it in the right slot and the right unique, it's pretty rare already in World Tier 4, okay? Again, if you're on like, you know, 1, 2, 2, that way there's a bit better sense of itemization progression in the game. It just would feel much better at the end of the day is what I'm trying to say. But I think gearing will be very painful, and here's how I already see it. People are going to complain about the drops. Maybe they're going to intentionally have the drop rate low, and they're going to be like, oh, okay, we're going to listen to your guys' feedback. We're going to increase the drop rate. They've been doing this kind of time and time again. This is something with a lot of action RPGs. Like the first week, everyone's like, oh, dude, there's not enough loot. Where's my loot? Remember, Path of Exile had that, and then everyone downvoted the game and went to mostly negative for the reviews, and then they buffed up the drop rates of Exalt and, you know, all this stuff. So I could see this already happening. I expect this to happen, but I'm just saying, just come out with your bat swing, Blizzard. Just go in and just make it exciting to go ahead and play and get these awesome brand new Chaos Uniques, especially since I'm assuming they're going to get deleted anyways. So if things stay the way that they are, I think people will see it as like a 6 or a 7 out of 10, but you can easily make this a 9 out of 10. Like you can easily make this a kick-ass season and people will absolutely love it. But I think that because it's so rare, this is the big area there's a problem. Like people will have fun once they get the items, but I think that sometimes the item is so rare that people just will see as something unachievable. I always see people again comment about Mythics being way too rare, but remember, these take 12 minutes for a random item, whereas Belial, you can do like Belial runs like every 1 minute. You could just slam these out way faster. So again, you have to wait and do the Infernal Hordes for 12 minutes. You got to go through all of it for a random one, and that way, if you get the spark, right, or if you get a bad, Mythic, like let's say you get, again, a Melted Horror Slig, you can still salvage it and get a spark. But anyways, I feel like this video is way too long. But again, the Chaos Uniques are just so incredibly rare. And then on top of that, these are account bound. So as far as I'm aware, we can't even trade these anyways. So that's another issue. But again, that's why I'm thinking that we need to look at the drop rates, because that's the biggest issue that I'm worried about for this season. So to go back and kind of answer the question, is this season worth playing and is it good? If you are a huge theory crafter or a fan of the game and you really like Diablo, your mind is going to explode with the possibilities, but the rarity is going to be kind of the bar that some people might not be able to jump over. Like, it's going to be a huge hurdle, and I think that's the main issue. So sorry the video was a little bit long, but there's just so much to talk about, and I want to say that Diablo has had finally one of the coolest seasons ever, but the drop rates could be something that they can look at. But anyways, if you played Season 10, let me know your thoughts down below, or what do you guys think about it so far. Maybe this is your first time checking out. What do you guys think of the Chaos perks and basically everything in the game? Again, there's so much cool stuff, and I'm really excited to see what the future of Diablo has, but this is a really awesome season. Just look at the drop rates, Blizzard.